Yeah. Welcome everyone to this Livingston City Commission meeting on November 19th. It's my dad's birthday at
Ooh, happy birthday.
5:32. Actually 82 years old today. So, and let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Chair Kale,
Here.
Vice Chair Newts,
Here.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Present.
Commissioner Lyons.
Here.
Commissioner Willich.
Here.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and start the meeting like we always do with public comment. This is general public comment for items that are not on the agenda this evening, and also items that are on that consent item list. And so I'll remind folks, individuals are reminded that public comment should be limited to items over which the city commission has supervisory control jurisdiction or advisory power. And I will remind folks that you have 4 minutes to make your comments. We'll have you come up to the front, as we just did, give your name and address and sign in. So let's get started.
Leslie Feigl, Livingston Area Chamber of Commerce, 303 East Park Street. Tonight, commissioners and Chair Kale, I am going to bring in front of you again, we have 2 new business, actually 3 new businesses opening. And November 22nd, this will be the Fall Art Walk, and that is at 5:30 is when we're doing the ribbon cutting. It actually starts inside at 5, drinks, they have a really incredible prize that you could win. So it would be a great one for you to come to, and I wanted to say that I appreciate the city manager, Mr. Gager, for coming to the last ribbon cutting that we did. That was, the one before the last. It was really important, and they were very touched that you were there to show up. And each one of these is very important to our economy of our downtown businesses. We have quite a few that are going to be switching places. We got a few openings that we haven't had in a very long time. So, for any of you that you could join this Friday, and again, that's at 5:30 for the ribbon cutting. And that's at the DeYoung Studios on the 3rd block of Main Street. So Janelle and Derek, again, like I told you last time, they were here previously, but now they have an actual studio. And it's beyond just a studio in art. They have a store. You can get cell phone covers, you can get cool hats, t-shirts, all kinds of things. So this should be a lot of fun. Also on December 12th. So that's going to be Mountain Rose Med Spa and the Blend. So the Blend Smoothie Shop across the street from where we're doing this one. And that's December 12th, and that'll be at 5:30. And that'll be like a dual ribbon cutting for 2 businesses that are sharing one spot and bringing a lot of new business. So we're excited about that one as well. Now this Friday, the art walk is going to be the same night as the Big Depot party that raises funds for Loaves and Fishes, which is free to attend, but they have tons of stuff in there to like win for raffle items. So it's always fun. So there'll be a lot of things going. There'll be a lot of people moving around downtown on Friday night. Just heads up. But that's it for this evening. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, Leslie. I will be selling raffle tickets at the Depot Friday evening, so
There you
come see us. Okay, any other general public comments? Anyone in the room? I'm not seeing anyone in the room. We'll go online. Anyone online that would like to make general public comment or comment on the consent items this evening? One more time, any public comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead. Oh, did I hear someone?
Yes, I just got on here. This is on the property owners on 604 North L Street. Hearing, is that correct?
Yeah, you're a little muffled, so maybe just get as close to your speaker as you can, but go ahead.
Okay. Yes, this is Dale Wood, and my property is 1105 East Montana, which is right across the alley from 604 North L Street. And I wholeheartedly approve of him putting in a garage and what has to be done here, the setback and so on. The Only reason I'm not signed on that piece of paper that he sent in is because he couldn't get hold of me at the time. But I wholeheartedly approve of this.
Okay, Dale, thank you. We're gonna look at that later on in the evening, but we have recorded your comments, so thank you, Dale.
All right, thank you.
Mhm. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close general public comment. Commissioners, consent items. Can anyone like anything pulled? I'm gonna pull D, for just some, edit. Can I get a, motion for A through C?
Make a motion to approve consent items A through C.
I have a motion by Lyons. Do I have a second?
Second.
Say Willich got that one. So I have a motion by Lyons, second by Willich. All in favor of consent items A through C? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I pulled D just quickly. Mr. Gager on page 31. The line support units. The math isn't quite right there.
Thank you, Chair Kale. Excellent observation. Excuse me, in the preparation of the purchase order, staff dropped a 3 from the unit cost. So the unit cost on the support cable was actually $3,882.75.
Okay.
And that extended total cost is correct and the bottom line cost is correct. So we'll add the 3.
Okay, great, thank you. That was all I had. Any other comments or questions about that? All right, I'll go ahead. I'll make a motion to approve consent item D with the edit. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Schwartz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay. We have one proclamation this evening. This is a proclamation of the Livingston City Commission declaring November 30th, 2024 Small Business Saturday in Livingston, Montana. Whereas the city of Livingston proudly recognizes the unique and vital role that our small businesses play, not only as economic engines, but also as central figures in fostering a vibrant and welcoming community. And whereas our small business owners are dedicated individuals who bring their passion, skills, and commitment to Livingston, creating opportunities, strengthening family livelihoods, and supporting community goals with unwavering resolve. And whereas each small business contributes to the character and spirit of our community, from creating local jobs to supporting community initiatives, it is through their hard work and determination that our local economy and neighborhoods thrive. And whereas Small Business Saturday observed this year on November 30th, 2024, is an important reminder to shop small, invest locally, and show our support for the small businesses that shape our lives and sustain our community. And whereas by shopping locally, our residents help to strengthen Livingston's economy, foster personal connections, and contribute to a robust, resilient community. Now, therefore, be it resolved on behalf of the Livingston City Commission, I, Terry Kale Chair, do hereby proclaim November 30th, 2024 to be Small Business Saturday in Livingston, Montana. Mr. Gager.
Thank you, Chair Kale. Ordinarily, I don't like shopping, but I love Small Business Saturday. And so I make an exception that day of the year to go shopping, and I'll do so again this year.
All right, thank you. I love shopping downtown, so one of my favorite places to shop, so. Anyone else?
I would like to add a couple of numbers to this Small Business Saturday.
Right.
That I looked up this afternoon. 43.5% of the United States gross domestic product is created by small businesses. 45.9% of the total workforce of the United States is employed by small businesses, and 35% of total exports from the United States are operated by small businesses. So they are a significant portion of our economic engine. So small businesses are where it's at.
Thank you, Commissioner Willich. Anyone else? All right, well, just thank you to all our small businesses in Livingston, and please go out and shop this year. All right, moving on. We are going to move on to our first action item of the evening. or actually, sorry about that. We have a scheduled public comment this evening. So we have an update from Four Ranges Community Recreation Foundation on the Wellness Center project. Mr. Gager.
Thank you, Chair Kale. I am pleased to invite Chase Rose from the Four Ranges Community Recreation Foundation, Inc. to provide an update on the Wellness Center project, as the foundation has recently achieved certain milestones. And so Chase, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, thank you. Chair Kale and Commissioners, thank you for the invitation to be here tonight and for your time to provide an update. Candidly, this is an incredibly exciting moment, maybe the most exciting moment in the lifespan of Four Ranges. In late summer, we were provided with a guaranteed maximum price from our general contractor, Swank Enterprises, after working through a design process with LPW Architects. And that guaranteed maximum price, there were numerous construction experts that really were advising us that it was a good, solid price. And if we did not take advantage of it by the deadline, which was the end of October, and had to rebid in the spring, it was highly likely that the price was going to increase, and many were telling us as much as perhaps 7 figures. So Four Ranges in the last 3 months has really been all in on reaching out to donors and just aggressively fundraising. I will tell you that what we've seen in the last 3 months has truly been a firestorm of philanthropy. We have raised in just the last couple of months $2,316,000. And so that equates to nearly $40,000 per business day that donors in Livingston and Park County have invested in this project. We are incredibly thankful. We are incredibly excited, because the last major gift, it was a $300,000 contribution, came literally on October 30th. And we were able to engage with the guaranteed maximum price. Part of my interest in being here tonight is we do have a public groundbreaking that is open to anyone. It's open to the general public. Certainly, we've invited key partners and donors as well at 4 p.m. this Thursday on site at Katie Bunnell Park. And we wanted to make sure that city leadership was fully briefed on exactly of our progress and the intention prior to that. I will mention that the $22.5 million that has been secured thus far by the foundation accomplishes a couple of things. Number one, it fully funds the facility itself. However, we do have another $1 million that will fund some of the key fixtures, equipment. There are some alternates that we can choose to insert into the project based on cash flow, as well as some perimeter landscaping. However, we do have the 2-year period of construction to accomplish that, and we feel good about our chances to do just that and hit that $1 million. Immediately after that threshold, as you know, we also endeavor to continue forward with fundraising for a roughly $5 million operational endowment that will support the maintenance and ongoing needs of the facility in the years ahead. So Four Ranges, I want to be clear, though we've achieved a milestone, we are by no means stopping our efforts, and by no means do we have sufficient support to call it a day and all go celebrate. There is still much work to be done, but we are excited about, certainly we're excited about the progress to date. Several points for public input remain, and it will be run by Mr. Gager in the city, including the kids pool feature, the outdoor play features, fitness equipment, interior color scheme, and materials. So those conversations will be ongoing with the community. Just by way of dates, Four Ranges was given control of the site. It was a lease agreement on 11/15. The fence went up around the construction site on 11/18. And then again, groundbreaking is scheduled for 11/21 this Thursday. Part of the site, the intention is that it remains open to the public with limited amenities. Though the construction starts now and they will work as long as they can until weather really prohibits their ability to do so. The current estimated timeline for opening is winter 2026, 2027. It is my hope that the day the doors open, it is 30 below and the snow is blowing sideways, because I cannot wait for the community to have an indoor facility, warm temperatures, warm pool, and most importantly, the togetherness and connection that we've all really strived for through this entire process. In closing, I would just say the city's been a tremendous partner, truly. Thank you to Mr. Gager, his team. Very proactive and just incredibly helpful through the entire effort here. I think this is going to be a wonderful example of a successful public-private partnership. In fact, we are unaware of any community wellness center, at least of this magnitude, that's been 100% funded by philanthropy, at least the construction portion, and then of course, the public support to operate the facility as well. So I think this is a great win for the community, maybe even a precedent in the state of Montana. And I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you tonight. Any comments or questions?
Commissioners, if I could just make one slight correction, the construction fence was expected to go up yesterday, because of the snow and the inclement weather. I was out there about 2 p.m. today, and it hasn't gone up. I believe they're hoping to get it up tomorrow as it warms up a bit, so.
Commissioner questions for Mr. Gager or for Chase?
I'll say congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, great work. I'm excited to see this go. Can't wait.
Sure.
See you Thursday for sure.
Perfect.
We've
Hope
been
you're all
made
there.
aware of and so,
Excellent.
yeah, hopefully it's a nice sunny day.
Yeah,
And
as warm as it can
then
be.
opening day, it can be, like you said, 40 below.
Yes.
Mr. News?
Yeah, I would say congrats, and also like for future celebrations, like I can't be there because I have to work. Lots of people that probably want to use it are working or in school at that time. You might consider also family-friendly times where people can come. Even though it's like not convenient to people that are doing it on the clock during work hours. So just an aside, but I was gonna ask you, Chase, what were the 4 things that you said? The kids pool, the kids outdoor play area, the color scheme, and then what was the 4th one?
Fitness equipment.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. The scope of that, what it looks like, the preferences of the community. That's, discussions we can have in the next couple of years.
Thank you. And then do you all have, I know you have ways for folks to reach you when you're fundraising. Do you also have like a public comment portal for people in Livingston or potential users of the facility that want to communicate directly with Four Ranges about whatever related to the wellness center?
There is, yeah, there's both a web form as well as contact information, phone and email actually on our website, so fourranges.org. I'll also just foreshadow that there will be a year-end appeal going out to most of the community by which we have data for, and so there will be some additional information that shares about the progress and also an opportunity to give for those that are inspired.
But you're also just accepting general comments on people that want to make sure you guys hear whatever it is that they're
Sure.
interested in regarding the
Absolutely.
property, because I know I'm guessing that the city we always have a portal on our website. And I'm sure that you're keeping track of comments, yeah, that come in, okay.
Absolutely.
And then do you all like share with each other those comments so you can all be on the same page since it's ultimately public?
You bet.
Great, thank you. I think that's helpful for the public to know. So wherever you put it, the other group will find out. Because you'll share that info with each other. Great, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for
Absolutely.
coming and sharing an update too. It's very meaningful.
Certainly.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thanks, Chase.
Cheers.
I'll be there on Thursday as well. I look forward to seeing you. And yes, I appreciate coming and letting the community know. And I think as much as we can kind of keep folks up to date as how things are moving forward and where you're at, I think people are really craving to understand what's happening. So
Mhm.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Moving along. We will head then to our first action item of the evening. Resolution 5051, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, declaring certain property as surplus and directing that said property be donated, sold, or disposed of. Mr. Beecher.
Thank you, Chair Kale. The item before you is a follow-up to some of our comments before the meeting regarding a new police cruiser. And with the city recently taking possession of 2 police vehicles in the last 6 months, we are at a point where it makes sense for us to surplus several of our vehicles. And so before you this evening, I'm requesting permission to declare three police vehicles, the three Fords, as surplus. And then we also, in looking around the Public Works facility, identified a rather aged piece of equipment from a Chevrolet from the 1950s that we also is surplus to our operations. And so I'm happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Is,
Does
I
it
have a
run?
question right away. I have a question right away.
Okay,
Is
go
this,
ahead.
is this vintage Chevy? Is this vintage Chevy the one that Commissioner Schwartz was talking about, like an old logo was on, like 2 or 3 logos back?
No,
No?
that
That's a different
actually,
one.
that piece of equipment still runs and is integral to the water reclamation facility.
Oh,
So no, actually, I was out there
Okay.
on Friday.
I'll yield so we can move to
Okay.
the horsepower
Well,
question.
first, no, I get to go next. I'm just gonna say the 1950s Chevy might look nice next to my 1950s Ford, so.
All right.
Just like-
Might look good in a parade, you know?
All 4 of these vehicles will be up for auction. The city uses publicsurplus.com if any.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, your bidding number.
Yeah.
So that's an online
Yes.
sitting, okay.
Any other questions or comments?
So it isn't a conflict of interest for me to go ahead and get online and take a look at this thing.
So we do have a policy internally where employees are not allowed to bid on surplus equipment. However, you folks are not employees, and so there you go.
Do I need a new project?
Any
I
other?
guess your garage?
I got it.
All right, well, let's, can I have a
I'll make a
I'm
motion
making
to
Okay,
approve resolution 5150.
I have a motion by Schwartz. Do I have a second?
I can second, I have no conflict, I will not be bidding.
Yeah.
on city vehicles.
I have a motion by Schwartz and a second by Newt, but now we will open up to public comment. Anyone in the room like to make a comment? Resolution 5150. Seeing no one in the room, I'll ask online. Anyone online comment about resolution 5150? Feel free to come off mute, say your name. All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Any more deliberation or discussion? Roll call, please.
Chair Kell,
4,
Vice Chair News,
For,
Commissioner Schwartz,
Or
Commissioner Lyons, Commissioner Willich.
Or
motion carries. All right, moving on to action item B. Ordinance 3056, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, amending chapter 30 zoning of the Livingston Municipal Code by altering section 30.40, section 30.41, and section 30.43, and section 30.51 as they relate to accessory dwelling units and 2-family dwellings. Mr. Gager.
Thank you, Chair Kale. The item before you is a repeat of something, a process that we started about 11 months ago. You might recall in the last legislative session, the Montana State Legislature made some changes to the zoning provisions of Montana Code Annotated that affected certain communities. The city of Livingston is specifically affected by Senate Bill 323 and Senate Bill 528 as they relate to both ADUs and duplexes. And while we started this process, as I noted, back in January, or excuse me, back in December even, and then prior to a court injunction which stayed the implementation of these bills, that stay has since been lifted. And so we, the city, has restarted the process, and on October 24th, the Consolidated Land Use Board reviewed the attached ordinance 3056 and recommended its approval by a vote of 5-0. And so Director Severson, I may invite you up to give a quick summary of what's in the ordinance, and I will share that with everybody.
Good evening, Jen.
Good evening, how are you?
Good.
Good. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch if you said this, Grant, but it is, before I start, it is in the staff report that other than the couple of additional things that we included to reflect the direction we got from you last January, all of this actually is already law. So just, it was mandated by the state. So this is again about, if you recall, and again, I didn't hear you say it, but there were 3 bills that came and required mandated zoning revisions last year. One of them was for neighborhood commercial to allow residential uses, and then the ADU and the duplex one. We proceeded and we moved forward with the recommended changes, or the changes mandated by the state, with some additional as directed by you for the neighborhood commercial, and that is part of our code already. So now we're just circling back on these, the ADU and duplex. So 2 bills that spurred this on. One is SB 323, and that bill says that duplexes are allowed anywhere that single-family residential uses or single-family dwellings are allowed. The only 2 districts in Livingston that this impacts really are going to be the R1 district and the residential mobile home community district. So now you can have a duplex instead of just a single. Everywhere else, R2, R3 mix, it already allows for that. All other zones, yeah, allow where single family is. SB 528 also says that ADUs allowed anywhere a single family residence exists. It also limits restrictions that we can place on ADUs. The first part of that, the key change, I think, is the central business district. There's a couple of streets that are primarily, or actually all residential. If you think like 2nd Street between Clark and Geyser, there's no commercial businesses, it's all residential. So before this bill, they were not allowed to have an ADU unless it was part of what we call high residential development, which was 3 or more units. Now, if they have a house on the lot, they are allowed by right to put an ADU also, or a single family residence on the lot, they could put an ADU on there. This also removes requirements for parking, off-street parking. Previously, we required 1 off-street parking space per ADU. We can no longer require that, although we strongly still encourage it. Livingston was actually quite a bit ahead of other places in the state. Before this came through, we waived 50% of impact fees for ADUs. We can no longer charge any impact fees for ADUs. So 100% of the impact fees are waived, if you want to look at it that way. The design part of it didn't apply to us. Some places require that the ADUs exhibit a similar design aesthetic to the primary dwelling. We never required that, so I've just got a little asterisk on it, but it is part of that bill. And then the next one is the changes to the use table. And actually, I'm going to draw your attention to, I highlighted in yellow the things that changed. I believe in the ordinance, it reflected that multifamily dwellings, that we changed that from neighborhood commercial. It had an A with a line under it. That was an old, that's already been accepted. So these 5 cells, if you will, these are the things that are changing in 3040 from what is already approved in our code. And that's a little bit different than what's up on Unicode, but we've reflected what's already been approved through you in our code. And then these are the 5 additional. You'll see the 2 family dwellings on the far left under R1, those are now allowed. Duplex under RMO, also now allowed. And then under CBD, we've got the change for this is we're not changing the intent of what's there. We had some language that was very confusing to a lot of people. We had an asterisk next to allowed for 1 family dwellings in the CBD. We've just changed the language underneath. Rather than saying it's allowed, but it has to be part of, if it's a new structure, it has to have 1 or 3 or more units in there. We felt like this was just making it a little clearer. So 2 family dwellings now are not allowed. If it's an existing structure, yes, that's where the asterisk at the bottom comes in. And then the accessory dwellings are allowed, asterisk. And then if you go to the table underneath, it says they are allowed only if a single family residential uses already exists on the property. The number 2 on the underneath, the square underneath the notes. Before we made these changes, and again, this was just a tiny bit of house cleaning. It said any number of apartment units. We just changed, we're recommending changing that to residential. That's not mandated by the state, but it's more consistent with the rest of chapter 30. Also, in the next line, it says they need the definition of high density residential. It was really complicated because we never actually defined high density residential anywhere. So the multifamily is just single family duplex, multifamily is 3 or more. What happened?
Oh, I think we jumped a slide.
Yeah,
There we
I
go.
think
Yeah.
I hit it.
Okay. And then the one at the bottom, we removed that, the includes manufactured homes. That ordinance was passed a while ago, so that's just redundant language. We removed it. And then the next one, I don't know why that popped up, but this was the additional change that we made per your direction last year, because the duplexes are now allowed anywhere that a single family residential use is allowed. The concern was that people would then ask for an ADU to be tied to each of the duplex units. So essentially doubling the allowed density from what was previous to these bills. So we are proposing that we limit ADUs. They can only apply to single family residences. They can't apply to duplexes or multifamilies, townhomes or condos, and that keeps this state mandated ADU and duplex laws from kind of drastically or significantly changing our density from what the code is now. I feel like those will be looked at as part of the ongoing code update process to see if people want to see beyond that, want to see any additional density beyond that. But this allows, so if you have a single family residence and you want to attach the ADU to make a duplex, that's an attached ADU, that's fine. But if you already have a duplex, you can't apply an ADU to either of those. Does that make sense? So that's really what this is that it's limiting it so that it doesn't double or in some districts quadruple the density from what's there now, just because of those 2 ADU duplex laws. So these are the criteria for zoning regulations from MCA. I've gone over and evaluated each of them in your staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions, but just for time's sake, I'll kind of skip over that. And then just based on the discussion in your staff report and what I've just showed you, we are recommending that you follow the recommendation of the Consolidated Land Use Board and adopt these text amendments as proposed by staff, as shown in the attached draft ordinance 3056.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate it. And Director Severson and I will stand for any questions the commission may have.
Thanks, Mr. Gager. Commissioners, questions for Mr. Gager or for Dr. Severson?
Clarifying, correct?
Clarifying, yes, sir.
Okay. No, I don't.
I have one.
Commissioner Lyons?
Does neighborhood commercial allow for a single family residential?
So this was part of what went through last January. We didn't change the part that it has to have a commercial use as part of that structure.
Yeah, so I recall that bit. So that bit had to do with whether or not any residential was allowed in neighborhood commercial, and if there's a commercial use, then residential was allowed if it's part of that commercial use. I recall that.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, the single family residential, meaning not part of a commercial building,
Is not allowed.
is not allowed in neighborhood commercial.
Correct.
And so that's why a ADU is not listed as an allowable use in neighborhood commercial.
Correct.
Okay, that's my only question. Thank you.
Any other clarifying questions? I would entertain a motion.
I have a quick
Oh,
question, actually.
yes, sorry.
But there are existing single families in neighborhood commercial currently. They're just like older homes, yeah? I think there are some, I think it's neighborhood commercial. I don't have the zoning map probably memorized as well as you do.
So if you think of neighborhood commercial, and I'd love to tell you I have the whole zoning map memorized, but I don't either, so. over off of Sun Avenue, when
Yeah.
you turn off of, Front Street
Yeah.
to the left. On the left side or the south side of Sun Avenue, there's those, they kind of look a little like industrial and they look like, and half of them are like a workshop or something like that, that's a commercial use, and the other half, for most of those, people live in them. That was part of the neighborhood commercial allowance from many years back. The only thing that changed in January was that the state had required that anywhere that there's a commercial use, residential uses are allowed of units of 5 or more residences. And this commission asked us to actually make it so that residential or commercial uses there, you can have any number of residential units as
Right.
long as there's one. I don't currently know of any, if there is a single family residence there.
I'm thinking of between Fifth and I think it's Main on the north side of Front Street. That half a block strip to the alley. Those houses just facing, I think it's only like 4 blocks. Is that neighborhood commercial? But those are still, I'm guessing,
Yeah, pre-existing non-conforming.
correct, thank
I
you.
looked at this, if you have a single family, if any of those, and I had asked Adriana, our GIS person, to look at these. Certainly for like industrial, light industrial, but I believe I asked her to look at it for neighborhood commercial. We couldn't identify any single family being used as a residence. If there is though, and we could adjust this if you would like to put an asterisk, another asterisk on this. Because of the ADU law that the state mandated, if there is an existing family, a
Right.
single family residence that is legally non-conforming, then yes, they can have an ADU.
So I think those are all single family, or there might be some multifamily, like duplexes.
Yeah. And multifamily, again, wouldn't
But-
apply for the, but the same, if there
But I
is a
don't think that-
single
I think
family
the closest
residence.
commercial there is that, Zillow Yamaha shop around the corner.
Oh, are you, thank you. I didn't think that was.
So
neighborhood
I
commercial.
actually didn't think that the
just-
neighborhood
I
commercial
can't
extended
remember what it
that far
is.
No.
down.
I can't
Yeah, just
remember
make
what it
sure.
is, but I think that half block is something else.
So I'm going to that first area that you had.
Sun Avenue, yeah, that's, keep going.
Yeah, no, that, those two.
Washington School.
Right,
Yeah, right
what
there.
are the, okay, there,
So none of those are single family residential. They all have another side to it. I do know of one family that it was the double unit, and they were using it as a shop years ago, and then the residence is the other. They said the shop use stopped. They said it's legally non-conforming. So-
what is that half block strip? I just can't remember.
Right there.
Are you
No.
talking?
On Main,
Yeah,
I think
between
she's
Main
talking
and
about where the
Fifth.
Yamaha shop
Yeah,
is.
no, and listen, I think first I heard between,
It's between like, it's right there, those green ones. What are those?
R3.
yeah.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you. I
it's-
couldn't remember what they
As
were.
I say, I didn't think that was neighborhood.
I couldn't
commercial.
remember what they were. And then, so that the little Yamaha shop is actually,
right, it's right there,
it's
yeah.
R3.
Never moved.
I just couldn't remember. I knew it was something different than the rest, but I
I
can't
thought it
remember,
was part of
sorry.
the industrial, so yeah, it's.
Thank you
it's
for pointing that
R3.
out. I just couldn't remember.
And that neighborhood commercial, that's the barbecue
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Whew.
Used to be the grocery.
And then
store.
there's also, again,
Yeah, and I was gonna go through it all. I
Yeah.
can't think of a only single residential structure in neighborhood.
by KPRK, if you pull that up, is there one single family house up there? There may be.
Oh, yeah. that
There
one.
may be. It's a large lot.
Yeah. I think you're right.
And if that's the case, then again, the ADU, they would be allowed to have that. So yeah, we can change the ordinance and put like another asterisk or something on there to indicate that basically it should be anywhere. If you have a single family residence
They're
that
allowed
already
80,
exists,
Just to
and again,
grandfather.
it's,
this
and it's
in.
legally non-conforming or legally,
right, doesn't matter,
well, yeah. So, but we can do that.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Also validating that you don't have it memorized,
Mhm.
so thank you for
I
that.
mean, I have.
That was pretty.
She was
impressive.
pretty.
Pretty close.
I know,
yeah.
it's good.
She was
She's
pretty
good.
close.
She should be the city planner.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Give her a job.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
Okay. So any other questions?
Not high.
I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the first reading of ordinance 3056 to amend the city of Livingston zoning code sections 30.40, 30.41, 30.43, and 30.51 related to accessory dwelling units and two-family duplex dwellings, and to authorize the chair to sign ordinance 3056.
I have a motion by Lyons. Do I have a second?
Second. I beat you, bud.
Yay.
Sorry.
Second by Schwartz. Okay. So we'll go ahead now and open it up to public comment. We'll start in the room. Anyone in the room like to make general or make public comment? Leslie?
So this is probably a twofer. So me as the chamber, and then you make a comment as Leslie Feigl, citizen. I've spent probably the last a year and a half following and attending and participating in the governor's housing task force, as well as the housing, creating the housing action plan in the community before that, and also just my having private ownership of multiple rentals. There's a couple things that have really changed, and this is something I support wholeheartedly, because of the fact that I've continuously brought it up. Duplexes are less costly to build. Duplexes that are built on top of each other are even less costly because you only have one roof. This actually can create workforce housing, lower income housing, by creating something that costs less. If you take a 1,500 square foot house, average cost of building right now is between 300 and 325. So you're looking at $450,000 to $490,000. That's the difference between a single family home and a duplex. But then at the duplex, you get an automatic income. And it also opens a huge opportunity for first-time home buyers to be able to buy the entire unit and then rent out the other side, which is automatic income. So, you know, it's a huge, you know, positive for our community when we're looking for high density areas, to be able to, you know, if you don't want to do an ADU and you have those double-sized lots, it's a perfect thing to be able to do duplexes. So the only thing, I guess, I did hear from a few real estate agents over the last couple of days on this, and, you know, they're concerned. They're always the first thing they hear from folks that are in the community. They say, NIMBY, right? Not in my backyard. I don't want, that's too many homes next to me. I want my space, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of funny because you get one agent, they'll go, well, then you should have bought the other lot. Or, you know, they simply say that, you know, it's a proof of fact that it takes down property value, when actually it doesn't. If you take the national average, if you have a high density city and a high density neighborhood, it actually, nationally, the average is about 1.9% increased value in a higher density community than it is without it, with, you know, little spaces in between here and there. Also, the only other thing that's not talked about on here, which is actually less expensive, is the new modulars. Modulars today, which even come with marble countertops, that you put them on foundations, and they just come 2.5. I'm sure you've seen them. They're not trailer homes anymore. They're modulars. And those even cost less money to do for higher density communities. So again, the only other negative thing would be about the parking. If we're looking to make in a community that is more walkable, bikeable, and all of the above, less garages or less cars that are parked on the streets. Already right now, we're really condensed with that. So that is the other concern that we had. So maybe that's just another portion that with Jennifer, we can look at, you know, kind of going down the road again. That would be a parking issue around here, right? In the day that we all get flying cars. Someday soon. But thank you very much for your time. I just wanted to throw that out there that, you know, there's some real potentials to duplexes. I've been advocating for them for years. Also, having a duplex community, more of, instead of like on the north side and that last phase 4, to where they're going to build a bunch of homes. If you were, or out there at PFL, if they were to create duplexes for their community, that is, again, double the housing at a lesser cost for rentals or for purchasing. So hopefully people will listen to this and throw one of those out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. Anyone else in the room? I don't see anyone else in the room. So anyone online like to make public comments on ordinance 3056? Feel free to come off mute and give us your name. One more time, any public comment? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Commissioners, discussion, deliberation?
I personally wish that, I wish about the parking. I wish that hadn't necessarily been touched. That is going to end up being an issue. I can see it coming. But I do echo also the Consolidated Land Use Board's apprehension towards our capacity, water and sewer capacities. So I'm not sure how we're gonna tackle that, I guess as it happens, but it's something that we're gonna need to keep on our radar for what it looks like for our future moving forward. Other than that, though, compliance with the state
Yep.
comes from the folks in Helena. Can't do much about it. I yield.
Thank you. Commissioner Lyons?
The point that I'm stuck on is I think that, the idea of asterixing, I don't know if that's a proper verb or not, all of the no's in the not allowed in the allowable use table, place of uses table, for ADUs would probably be a good idea. This is what, Ms. Severson was saying, because the law does state anywhere there's an existing single family. So it's not whether it's allowed. And that was my question about the neighborhood commercial, was our single family residential houses allowed? They're not allowed, but they might exist. I think, we could probably do some more work with our spatial understanding of the city among the commission to identify where we know of single family houses in these areas where they might not be allowed. But I think the easy solution is just an asterisk and have that footnote that kind of make sure that that's clear. The reason that we'd want to do that is that if we make it clear with this ordinance, those things won't come to Jennifer and or the commission in the future when it's actually like really clear from the state law how that needs to go. So that's kind of my only technical point. I think in general, honestly, I think in general, this change from the state is relatively aligned with the vision of our growth policy. If we allow the market to kind of adjust to the needs of our community through the allowing of ADUs and duplexes, kind of in the existing footprint of the city, I think that is pretty well aligned with the vision of the growth policy. So I'll yield there.
Thank you, Commissioner Lyon. Commissioner Schwartz?
I'll echo what Commissioner Willich brought up. I'm disappointed with the parking, doing away with the parking requirement and the impact fees, especially, we're only looking at us, 50%, of traditional impact fees. But be that as it may, not much we can do about it, but it's nice to know that we were actually ahead of the curve on this, before the state. So with that, I yield.
Thank you. Vice Chair Newt?
Question for Mr. Gager. Do we need to amend anything? Like, do we need to amend anything in the motion to allow for clarity around the neighborhood commercial housing, or?
I invite Jen up to
Yeah, come on, Jen.
the podium on for her thoughts. I actually was reviewing the bill language myself to determine if that was
Yeah.
actually something we needed to do. So Jen, you have.
Especially if there's a second reading
Yeah,
too, so it's partly
Yeah,
a process.
My recommendation, I was making notes while you said that, I think that we can keep. There's two ways to do this. So Grant, if you could, do you mind pulling up the table 3040 that I had up there? So if you'll, that one. So right now for accessory dwellings.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Give us 1 second,
Yeah.
Jen, if you would,
I'm new
please.
here.
Yep, yeah, it's okay. We're just gonna share it, so folks at home can see too. Okay, now, thank you.
So on the line for accessory dwellings on table 3040, if you go over to under the CBD, we had put it to say allowed and then done an asterisk
Asterisk.
underneath. So new ADUs are allowed in the CBD only if blah, blah, blah. We could just make it simpler and change for accessory dwellings under NC and the CBD one that we have.
Mhm.
Leave the CBD one as an N, leave the NC one as an end, put the asterisk, and then the asterisk in the table could just simply read, new ADUs are allowed in these districts only if a single family residential use already exists on the parcel.
Mhm.
I think that would account
I-
for,
That's cleaner, I think.
My thinking is that I don't have a good enough spatial understanding of the city to be sure that there isn't a single family home in any light industrial.
I had them check.
Um, so it might be safer to just, to not
the
assign it,
asterisk.
yeah, to not assign it to just those two. That just anywhere there's an N, just have the asterisk, because that's really the spirit of the law, is that
Yes.
anywhere there's an existing single family residence, that's allowed. So instead of just attributing it to neighborhood commercial and C central
CBD.
business district.
Yep.
You could just do it across the board.
We can actually, that's totally fine. I did have her look into the LI, that was at the LI and the I
Uh-huh.
thought just that GIS to make sure there was not anything, but I think is cleaner, like you say, to just put it. So leave the CBD as an N, leave the neighborhood commercial, and then just kind of all across those ends
Any
have the
N,
asterisk.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then say these districts, and I'm happy
Yeah.
to make those changes for the second reading.
that's cleaner, yeah.
And you still have the floor. Vice
Thanks.
Chair.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the bill language. Does it say anywhere that it exists or anywhere that it's allowed? Did you find it, Mr. Gager? in the
I
bill
did,
language?
yes, and it is on page 60 of the packets.
Mhm.
And it is, it's actually right in the top of section 1 in the bill language. A municipality shall adopt regulations under this chapter that allow a minimum of one accessory dwelling unit by right on a lot or parcel that contains a single family dwelling.
Which we would interpret as exists, not allow.
I would, simply because and thank you, I was going there in my head, when we read on page 65. The other bill, in section 1, and I'm looking at the bottom of the page, the underlined section. And, in a city with a population of at least 5,000 residents, duplex housing must be allowed as a permitted use on a lot where a single family residence is a permitted use, and it goes on. And so I read that language, to be distinctly different
Correct.
between exists and a permitted use.
Great, thank you. That's what I was thinking too. So do we need to make any amendments, or since it's a first reading, will you all just bring us back the amended for the second reading?
I think it would be technically cleaner if we actually received the formal direction from you folks in the form of
Okay.
a motion, to amend
Okay.
what's been presented.
Regarding parking, I just don't want to make light of the fact that the staff talk to developers as they're proposing. So while the law allows one things, I do think that staff, and I trust the staff will talk to developers and say, realistically, you don't have to have parking, but if you want to rent this to anyone with a car, you might consider putting parking because these neighborhoods don't have a lot of parking. Like, I'm guessing those are the conversations that would happen. So hopefully, that would help
Yeah,
That would
because it makes it
actually
more
help.
attractive, yeah.
builders, build things that people actually would want to live in if they have a car. Because I think that's a thing that happens, and I saw nodding from Director Severson, so I assume so. The other question I have, I appreciate the capacity concern. The thing that I'm interested to hear, is how many ADUs, have been permitted or built, say, in the last couple of years since you've been here, because I think we changed that law. I don't know, within a year or two before you started, probably.
So, while I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, we have looked at it in the past, and I would estimate that we're fewer than 15 ADUs
Okay.
a year that are being permitted in the citywide.
Like 15 citywide is very different than like 15 on a block, like 1,000 citywide or something. So I think capacity is a good concern, but maybe we're not to the point yet where it's impacting the system and can you let us know if, you know, ADUs really take off after today and we should be concerned about capacities in certain parts of town
Oh,
more than we already are?
Yes, we absolutely will. And please know at a staff level, we are already working on this for several reasons. One, because the municipal code currently requires each structure to have an independent connection to the main, to the water main.
Mhm.
And so basically, if one thinks about that on a block that has no ADUs currently, we're essentially potentially doubling the number of service lines, service connections to a main, which has implications for pressure and capacity. And so we're actually actively already reviewing our municipal code and operations to see where we could make some changes that might reduce the number of connections to the main. That ultimately doesn't reduce the total number of water that might be consumed. And so we separate from our internal discussions, we do have the city engineer looking at our capacity in certain areas to really confirm that we do have capacity for ADUs in areas where they seem to be more popular. And this may ultimately be one of the catalysts for a water main upsizing project, at least in the older part of the city south of the tracks where we still have a lot of 4 and 6 inch water mains. So yes, I appreciate the concern. And please know, we
Yeah,
share the concern and are doing the analysis now.
Thank you, that's awesome. The other thing I wanted to just note is I do appreciate the attention to detail with some of the language, like changing apartment to, I think it was residences, like those kinds of tweaks, I think it seems small, but I think it's meaningful in terms of like the meaning of the ordinance. So I appreciate, you know, Director Severson's attention to detail at all, whoever else is noticing these things. I think that's a nice improvement to code. There's a lot of simplifying that's happening here with these strike throughs, so thank you.
Thank you for noticing. We
Yeah.
appreciate that.
I yield.
Thank you. And I really just want to make sure that the public understands too, the parking, the impact fees, we don't get to choose that. The state has made that decision for us. That happened in the last legislative session. And so we are just coming into compliance with the state now. So just, you know, so folks really do understand, it's not really a decision that we get to make one way or the other, that decision has been made for us. Director Severson, thank you for going through this diligently and making these updates. I think all my fellow commissioners have asked any questions or said anything that I would have said. You're all very good at that. One last call. Any other thoughts?
Do we have a recommended amended motion to make?
Yes, we do.
Do you,
So,
do you have a
What would you prefer?
recommendation on language?
I certainly would, and I guess my recommendation would be, I move to amend the underlying motion to add an asterisk on the accessory dwelling line to anywhere where there is an existing N, and also to revert the CBD designation back to N.
Anybody get that?
no, but I can probably.
You could probably just say as stated by the city manager.
You could say that too.
Great, I'll make a motion to amend as stated by the city manager.
Okay, I have a motion to amend by Vice Chair Newt. And a second by Commissioner Lyons. So we will vote on the motion to amend first. Roll call, please.
Chair Kell,
4.
Vice Chair Needs,
4.
Commissioner Schwartz,
4.
Commissioner Lyons, Commissioner Willich.
4.
Motion to amend passes. Now we will vote on the amended motion. Roll call, please.
Chair Kell,
4.
Vice Chair Needs,
4.
Commissioner Schwartz,
4.
Commissioner Lyons,
4.
and Commissioner Willich.
4.
Motion carries. All right, we're moving on to action item C. consideration of request for zoning setback variance at the property located at 604 North L Street. Mr. Gager.
Thank you, Chair Kale. The item before you is a variance request, and I will introduce Director Severson up to walk you folks through the particulars of the request. So, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Good evening again, commissioners. I'll wait until Mr. Gager pulls this up. Before I go into this, I just, the staff recommendation, because, and I feel the need to say this because the gentleman who's applied for this is a perfectly lovely gentleman, very polite. As the zoning administrator, I feel that my responsibility is to enforce the zoning code or to support the enforcement of that. And so, you know, what I personally feel for somebody or what they want to do is a little bit different than sometimes what our code says. So, this is a variance request, 604 North L Street. It is the Presley variance. It is at the corner, 604 is at the corner of East Montana and North L Street. And the request is to, it's the R2MH medium density mobile home, residential zoning district. And this variance is requested for a 15-foot setback from North L Street to construct a 672 square foot garage where a 25-foot setback is required. That's the 25-foot front setback. It's 25 feet, requested variance is 10 feet, and the resulting setback from the property line along North L Street would be 15 feet. Go to the next one. So, this is the drawing that the applicant provided. I've just kind of marked it up to show what that means along, you'll see North L Street going along the left side of the diagram, the white diagram on the left. And the red arrow to that red line denotes 25 foot. That's the required setback. They are requesting a 10-foot variance from that. So that's that green arrow where that yellow shaded in areas. And if you look at that structure, I've kind of shaded in gray, it's DD on the legend. That is the proposed new garage. They would like access to it from L Street. And so because they have other existing structures and improvements on the property, that is why they're making this requested variance. They want to be able to shift it up 15 feet from their front property line along L Street. I went into a little detail in your staff report, the staff report I prepared, to provide a little more information from what I could find based on the drawing and the dimensions provided and some aerials on what all those items are in the legend. And also just to draw your attention to it on the bottom right, that aerial, that's just an aerial of the property showing all the improvements that are currently on the property.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking at. But just real quick, I wanted to go through this. Some key things. This is it consists of 4.5. I'll get to that one. Sorry, I should have put this in there, but this consists of 4.5 platted lots. The total square footage of this property is 15,750 square feet. They would like to put that new garage in, like I said, in where that's shaded DD, to access off of North L Street. It's a 672 square foot garage. There are several existing structures in the property. There's a roughly 2,200 square foot home with a 224 square foot deck off the west side of it facing L Street. There's a second smaller home on the property. From the aerial and estimate, it's about 500 square feet. That's kind of accessed, it looks like, off the alley. It's in the northeast corner of that property. A roughly 133 square foot gazebo that Mr. Presley's parents built when they built the property and started improving it. There's travertine walkways. Those are denoted by HH in the legend. Those are leading from the main home to North L Street into the gazebo. There's a 470 square foot garden and a second 72 square foot garden and several trees on the property. So there are a lot of improvements on the property. But, as you'll see in my analysis, I'm not sure, I think this meets all the things that a variance needs to meet. If you'll go to the next slide. So is this variance contrary to the public interest? No, I don't believe that it is. Moving the gazebo, oh, sorry, it's a 10-foot variance. There's still 15 feet from the street side property line. I don't think it will prove contrary to the public interest or cause any issues with safety. We did another variance along this street last year. It was a little bit of a different scenario, but as far as the distance from the street, it was actually a little less than this one. Will enforcement of the required setback result in unnecessary hardship for the applicant? No, I don't believe that it will. Because this lot is so large, I think there's a couple of ways the applicant could address this that does not require the approval or the granting of a variance. From what I can tell, if they move the gazebo a minimum of 7 feet to the east, they could construct the garage outside the 25-foot front setback. I know that the gentleman has said, Mr. Presley said that the gazebo really meant a lot to their family and it would be difficult to move. The garage size could be reduced to allow for a smaller garage. If you had an 18-foot deep garage instead of 28 feet, you could also construct that outside the 25-foot setback. So I do believe that this is not an unnecessary hardship enforcing the code and the current setbacks on the applicant. I do not see that as an unnecessary hardship by strictly enforcing the code. Will granting the variance request allow a use not permissible under the terms of the ordinance? No, the existing structure is going to be residential. Residential uses are allowed in this zoning district. Will granting the variance, will it grant a special privilege to the applicant within this district? To some extent, I believe yes. It's being requested to construct a garage. And I believe that it's possible to either reconfigure the site by moving the gazebo or reduce the size of the garage to meet that 25-foot required setback. So I find that granting the variance to allow encroachment into a required setback to construction an optional accessory structure like a two-car garage could be perceived as conveying a privilege to the applicant. And then is the variance in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the code? Yes, I believe it is. I don't think placing the garage 15 feet instead of 25 feet is in disharmony with the code. I did want to note in there that the referral responses we received from the fire chief and the building director and the public works director, they had no concerns with this variance request. And as the gentleman earlier in the meeting said, this applicant, and it's in your packet as part of their application, went and asked quite a few of their neighbors if they had any concerns or problems or issues with the variance they're proposing, and the neighbors did not. So I think that the granting it would be in harmony and general purpose of the ordinance. But I do find that the need for the variance request to build a garage, and I think I've got this in the next slide, actually, sorry. Yeah, it's a self-imposed hardship, as I'm analyzing it, and I believe the granting of this request would confer on the applicant a special privilege for an optional accessory structure. So staff recommends that the commission deny this variance request. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director Severson. We'll stand for any questions you may have.
Commissioners, clarifying questions for Mr. Gager or Ms. Severson? Commissioner Lyons?
I'm curious, so I did see the letters from neighbors, and we heard the testimony earlier. I am curious about, so I maybe could have done my homework to see the addresses of everyone who had commented, but I see that there are potentially, so the property adjoining to the north, the property across the street to the west, the property kitty corner to the southwest, and the property directly south are the ones that could have an impact on their provision of light and air. So that's why we do setbacks, is for the adequate provision of light and air. So those are the properties that could have an impact on their provision of light and air just from physics. Did we get a comment from every one of those properties in the application?
I did not look at that. I will tell you that we are required for noticing to send out a notice of this public hearing and what the variance request is to every property owner within 300 feet of 604 North L Street. And so we did send that out. It said what the variance was requesting. When I did that, I noticed, I think, if not all of these names on here were on that list of addresses that we sent it out to. And so it was maybe like 32 people. We didn't get any responses, one way or the other, probably from these people because they had already signed this, saying they had no issues with it. I haven't gotten any notice of anybody that has, any concerns with it one way or the other. So I did not check this. But I believe that everybody in close proximity that he was able to contact, where that could be an impact. It doesn't read that way in our code, but I agree with you. That's the general understanding of the building setbacks. Yeah, I think that they are probably all aware of it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's my only clarifying question.
Okay. Other commissioners, clarifying question?
Yeah, sorry, Jen.
Commissioner News?
Get your steps in.
tonight.
I'm curious about the road width here, like what it is, since it's one of those gravel roads versus like what are our street width supposed to be? When the day comes that this is no longer a gravel road in town and it's paved.
Well, this is interesting. So this is the north, I think this is the northernmost section of L Street.
Mhm.
The road right of way, so the platted right of way is actually 60 feet wide.
Okay.
The road surface, I'm gonna guess is no more than 24 feet if I had to wager.
So that's what I'm curious about. So does the 25-foot setback, because I assume it's on both sides of the street.
The 25-foot setback is from the front property line. So the
Right.
setback from the center of the road as it's platted is 30 feet on each side, but the setback for the building is along L Street for this garage is from the front property line, which actually, that's the edge of the right of way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the road appears much smaller than really what it would be in a plating. That's what I'm thinking about,
Yeah.
living on the north side, not far away from a lot
Yeah.
of these like gravel streets. So right away might be, technically for air and light, but also I'm thinking about like, public infrastructure and like how the day will eventually come in Livingston where we're putting sidewalks and paved roads on the north side. And I think there's some things on the south side of town for sure, where houses are right up against or on top of public right of ways. So that's another
Yeah.
thing I'm thinking about with like setbacks mattering for trucks to move through and for roads to get paved.
Yeah, I mean, if the time were to come where there was a fully improved street, typical cross section, if you will, so like, I don't know. If it's 28 feet grant for a paved, just the road from edge to edge?
Generally
Friendly,
speaking, that's
okay.
what we're travel lanes.
And then you have the area if there's a ditch that's needed, but any sidewalk, any pedestrian
Right.
improvements would actually be outside the property. So those would be at least 15 feet from this garage, so they would be in the street right of way.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think there would be adequate room for that in the future.
Okay.
Just especially also, right now, this dead ends. It doesn't go
ditch.
any further.
Right.
Yeah, to
Right.
the ditch, and so there would, yeah. I'm not sure if there's any plans in the near future. I wouldn't think so for fully developing that right of way.
Right. But I'm guessing also there's property owners that access that ditch up that road or up the alley.
I think the
With the
alley
way-
for sure,
Yeah, with the way.
Yeah.
What I've seen,
Yeah.
living next to the ditch myself.
Mm-hmm.
So there's other things to consider too with right of ways is my point.
Yep.
And setbacks.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
I appreciate that.
Any more questions?
No, thank you.
No, I have no clarifying questions. I would entertain a motion and then maybe. Oh, yes, sorry.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, Chair, if I could just address the earlier question.
Yes.
A quick review of the cadastral program, which has property ownership, seems to indicate that we have not received these, kind of,
In favor.
in favor letters from every adjoining neighbor in the area.
Thank you. Appreciate you looking that up.
Thank you for that.
That was fast.
And then also similar, Vice Chair Newts, to your point regarding L. L currently dead ends just north of the property.
Yeah.
However, there are platted and privately owned lots on the north side of the ditch.
Right.
And certainly at the foot of L, that's true as well. So while there's no pass through at this time, there may be in the future.
Thank you. That was fast. Nice
Yeah. nicely done.
cadastral speed there.
I apologize, we didn't do the analysis before the meeting, so. thank you.
Any other clarifying questions? Okay. Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion and then we can open it up to public comments.
I'll do this one. I'll move to deny the requested variance from the required 25-foot front setback distance for the purpose of constructing two-car garage 15 feet from the front property line on the property located at 604 North Elm Street.
I have a motion by Newt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Schwartz. Okay. The motion on the table, and now we will open it up to public comment. So first we'll start in the room. Anyone in the room like to make public comment? All right, seeing no one in the room, I will go ahead and ask online. Would anyone online like to make public comment? If you would, feel free to just take yourself off mute and say your name. And Mr. Gager, just to be fair, we have one person on their phone. Is there a special code people need? I can't remember.
I believe it is *6 if I'm not mistaken, although I would be happy to unmute the caller. They have unmuted themselves.
I just want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to make a public comment. If you would like to make a public comment, please just give us your name.
Yes, this is Dale Wood. And I
Okay.
called in earlier at the beginning of your meeting here
Yep.
about this property. I would like to remind people that that is a dead-end street that dead ends against the ditch. And there is property ownership above the ditch, but anybody looking at that, there is no place up there for a house. The incline of the hill is so steep that nobody's ever going to do that. So this is really just a dead-end street that's not going to impact anybody else.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Wood. Any other public comment?
Yes, this is Dale Presley.
Go ahead, Mr. Presley.
Yes, I'm kind of confused about this due to the fact that my neighbor received a 7-foot variance last year for not wanting to move a motorhome. So I'm finding it hard to understand why, to me, what's fair is fair. If I can't have the 10 feet, why can't I have the 7 feet?
Thank you, Mr. Presley. Any other public comments? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Commissioners, discussion, deliberation. Commissioner
Yeah,
Schwartz.
just to address what Mr. Presley was saying, I think maybe he's concerned about the way the motion was made.
Mhm.
It's made that way because that's the way it's written in our packet. Doesn't mean that we're necessarily against it. That's a staff recommendation. That's why it's read like that, just so he's aware of that. And with that in mind, generally, I'm very opposed to variances. I look at them very hard. I know where this area is at. And I see, I don't want to be short-sighted at this time. Any impact, especially with the, the width of the street and stuff like that. I don't see a reason at this point to deny his request for his variance, especially given where it's at and, yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So, but, I do take them seriously. I do look at them, but that's why we do allow variance requests and stuff like that for special circumstances. I agree there's no hardship or anything like that, but I don't see any real impact of not allowing this variance. I yield.
Other commissioners? Vice Chair Newt?
This actually reminds me of one on the south side. There was a variance request that we denied. That was because there was some like terrain and trees on the property, but we didn't consider it undue hardship that we granted a variance. So it kind of reminds me of that. So I'm in favor of the denial because I think it is consistent with applying the law. I do think also fair is fair, like where we should apply the law consistently across town and not make different rules for the south side and the north side. Particularly because, I agree also with Director Severson. It's not about it's not a personal decision. I mean, I know it can feel personal to people, but when we're applying the law, like zoning code and subdivision design standards, I don't think that it's personal. I think it's about what the people of Livingston have asked us to do through these laws in different neighborhoods. So I'm in favor of the staff recommendation.
Yep.
Yeah, I yield.
Other commissioners?
I'll go.
Commissioner Lyons?
Very much appreciate the well-considered staff report and presentation. And I noted from that presentation kind of that it was challenging for staff as well to come to the recommendation that they have. And I feel like staff has considered this very carefully, and I tend to agree with staff's assessment that the aims of the project could be achieved without requiring a variance. So, I think that the purpose of variances is typically that there is something specific to the nature of a property that makes it unduly difficult for the owner of that property to conform to the regulations of the zoning code. And I agree with staff's assessment that there is nothing about this property that makes it unduly difficult to conform with the requirements of the zoning code. I agree with Commissioner Schwartz that the impact of allowing the variance would be quite low. And particularly, I've said it before, the reason we do setbacks is to allow for the adequate provision of light and air. And moving a garage a little bit closer to the property line, I think has very minimal impacts on the provision of light and air. So I do think that that granting the variance would be of relatively meager impact on the public good. I'm hearing from Vice Chair Newts that a consideration that's important to her is consistent application of our regulations. And I also agree with that assessment. And so for me, it comes down to, those are countervailing factors on this decision. To the point where it's kind of a challenging decision for me. And when that's the case, and I don't feel that one way is necessarily stronger than the other, I defer to the staff's recommendation, and so I'm inclined to support the recommendation of staff. Oh, yeah.
Commissioner Welch?
Well, everybody brings up good points. And variances are exactly that, a variation from our norm. And I am going to guess for the 11 months and 19 days that I've been a commissioner, that this is the first variance that I've had to look at. And so I'm sure we've had any number of building permits that have come through that we haven't had to do a variance for. So on a case-by-case subject or a case-by-case basis for these, we have to look at it individually. And like I tend to think of Mr. Lyons here, the Commissioner Lyons, the impact is low, the risk is low, and he has overwhelming support from at least his supporters. Haven't heard anything from anybody saying against it, that it is impactful to them, his neighbors. And they've all been noticed correctly, I would take it. So within 300 feet, everybody's had a chance to say their piece with this. That's all I have to add. Thank you.
So looking at this, and I know that Mr. Presley brought up a variance that we did last year in the same area, and I'm imagining the variance that he's referencing is the same one that I'm remembering, and it was to add an additional housing unit to that lot. And that fell under some recommendations in the growth policy about increasing housing in the community. And so with a small variance, those folks were able to put in an additional housing unit. And I think that that's why we probably looked at that and moved that forward, because it provided additional housing in our community. This is a garage, not a housing unit. Obviously people have their private property rights and they can put whatever buildings they would like on their property and do what they would like with them, and absolutely. But I am having a hard time thinking about granting this variance, looking at this property and seeing ways that that garage could maybe be oriented in a different way or made a little bit smaller to achieve that goal. I think with the former variance, there wasn't an opportunity to put that house in a way that could have been put there to achieve that. Yes, I agree that maybe there's not a lot of impact to the neighbors, and that some of them have said that they were okay with it. It doesn't seem like we've got all of the adjacent neighbors. But I tend to agree with Commissioner Lyons when it is kind of like it could go one way or the other. I will rely on staff and the diligence that they've put into this. That's where I'm. Any further discussion, deliberation, thoughts? Okay. So we're gonna vote on this motion, and just to be clear, so that we're all clear on the way that this motion was stated. We are voting on a motion, and the motion was stated to deny the requested variance. So please think about that when you cast your vote, that you're voting to deny the variance. Just so we're clear.
Yeah, 4 is, an A is to deny,
Mhm.
A nay is
Not to deny.
not to know.
Okay. Mr. Gager, roll call please.
Chair Kale,
Four.
Vice Chair News,
For,
Commissioner Schwartz,
Nay,
Commissioner Lyons.
For.
Commissioner Willich.
Against.
So I have 3 fours, 2 nays. So the motion carries and the variance is denied. Commissioners, it's 7:02.
yeah,
I would wonder if someone to make a motion for break.
we'll make a motion for a 10-minute break.
I have a motion for a break by Newt,
second,
second by Schwartz. All in favor?
aye.
We will be back at 7:13. All right, welcome back, everyone. We'll go ahead and call back to order this meeting of the Livingston City Commission. Moving on down the agenda, item D, discussion regarding advisory boards. Mr. Gager.
Thank you, Chair Kale. The item before you is a revisitation of an item from a year ago. And you folks may recall that you took action to remove the tree board from the Livingston Municipal Code and then also disband the Parks and Trails committee that had been created by commission resolution. And as we went through that process about a year ago, it was a request was made to me to bring this back and revisit the change to the advisory board structure a year later. And so here we are a year later, and I am bringing this back to the commission for discussion and direction. And I am happy to stand for any questions that the commission may have.
Okay, so to be clear this evening too, this is just a discussion. There won't be any vote. We're not making any decisions, but. So I might just start. How's it going?
Well, I think from
What's
a
up?
great question, thank you.
Yeah.
From a staff
Geez.
standpoint, I think we are comfortable with the current arrangement. As you know, we've had some fairly significant outreach efforts over the last 6 months, certainly, as it relates to parks, trails, and trees. In addition to the Reservoir Park Geodesign Project, which we know engaged over 100 people, and the Parks Master Plan process, which kicked off in September and has already engaged over 300 people, in addition to several farmers markets where we talked about parks and trails. I think we are engaging with the public and receiving feedback in a way that is maybe different than we had in the past. But I think and talking to our Parks Division of the Public Works Department, they feel like they are receiving feedback in a timely and kind of accurate manner. So I think at a staff level, we are pleased with the current arrangement, but these were advisory boards of the commission, and so we serve at the pleasure of the commission. I serve at the pleasure of the commission, and so I wanted to give you folks the opportunity to ensure that your needs are being met as well.
I wonder if you could, and I don't know if you have this off the top of your head, but any idea about the amount of public outreach or public comments you received this last year comparatively to when we maybe had the Parks and Trails Board?
Yes, it's significantly more. Now, that said, we do have projects that are ongoing, but the average attendance for the Parks and Trails and tree boards was approximately 1 public member a month. And so, certainly I think we've had more engagement than that over the last 12 months.
Those are some of my questions. Other commissioners?
I'll just, piggyback off that. It seems like, it's gotta be, better for Grant and staff not to have to attend all these meetings of all these various boards and, spending their time a little more productively. Those boards are great, they served a great purpose at the time, and as we noted in, before last year, that if the need arises, we certainly can resurrect, boards, and case by case, basis, but from what I've seen and heard, feedback I've gotten, I like the way it is right now. I think Grant and staff has done a great job of, reaching out, especially, with this, Parks Master Plan and stuff like that. So with that, I yield.
Others? Vice Chair Newt?
Sure. These are some sort of like lingering questions that I don't think we've ever had, that I'm gonna be asking, that I don't think we've ever had closure on or answers to. So one is, trees, like where is the place where the public is influencing trees? Because I don't think I've seen that yet.
So we did, thank you, that's a good question. We did have a farmer's market session that was dedicated to, parks, trails, and trees, that myself and staff members, including the Parks Division, were there, and we received feedback. And I would say that has probably been the primary area that we've received tree feedback. That said, over
Great.
the last year, we have advanced several tree initiatives, including completing the tree inventory and continuing with our work on the removal of hazard trees.
Okay, great. And then, there were 2 designations that the city has that were sort of nestled in boards, and I'm wondering where those designations lay now. One was Tree City USA and the other was like the Bee City designation. I think those were conditions of those statuses.
Yes, thank you. And the city is recognized as both a Tree City USA and a Bee City USA. And please know, we do take those designations seriously. Not too long ago, some signs were placed at the entrance to town. Thank you.
Yep, out by Albertsons kind of.
Yep.
This is the one I saw.
Actually, we've got 3 of them that are out and about at
Cool.
all of the gateways. And we know we've got a segment of the community that values both trees and bees. And so we, in accordance with the allowances under both programs, we have transferred the responsibilities for those from the Parks and Trails Committee and Tree Board to the Parks Division of Public Works.
Oh, cool. Awesome. That's great. Can you share some specific examples of the ways the public has been influencing the administrative process around these topics since in the past year without the boards?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, in the spring, in this room, we held a bit of a community get together. That was an open house that gave people an opportunity to chat. Similarly, as I mentioned, we've had tables and staff present at the farmers market and several open houses, primarily centered around the initiatives that I mentioned, Parks Master Plan, Reservoir Park Plan. And so we've gotten feedback really, I guess, through those 3 mechanisms most directly. There's currently 1 survey out related to the Parks Master Plan. The Reservoir Park process closed about a month and a half ago. And so those have been the primary mechanisms to date. We do also have, and we have not released it, we're waiting until the Parks Master Plan closed, but as part of my budget process, I do have some survey work planned as well to learn about how folks engage with the parks and what they might like to see in this upcoming budget as the Parks Master Plan process ends. So we've done some and we have more to come.
Thank you. I was just actually thinking about, because I was at one of those spring meetings, and I was just thinking there must be a better way to engage with the public around how they can influence the budget. So I like that you're a step ahead already thinking about that. I think that's going to be really useful to give the public direct access to your part of government, right? Like without having to go through the commission to influence some of the projects or priorities maybe within the departments. Also, I know you said hazard trees in the tree inventory, and folks might not remember that that actually was sort of nestled in the tree board, even though it was an administrative function. I suspect actually Commissioner Schwartz that staff and Mr. Gager are not going to fewer meetings. I bet they're going to more meetings. But I think the process, hopefully, I'm interested in the process. Like, do you find that the process is cleaner? And we've decreased like liability and risk by not taking administrative things through the commission? Like, can you give some feedback around that? That was my primary concern, is we had like these boards set up under the commission that were really executive boards. And so it was really like fraught with problems, like putting staff in conflict with the commission. So I'm curious, like, what have you seen process-wise change?
Yes, I think certainly, we have lowered our risk profile as a city, by making some of these changes and really putting those responsibilities where they rightly belong, in kind of my estimation, in good governance. And so, from that standpoint, we are very pleased. You know, as it relates to feedback and engagements, you know, while I'm pleased with the amount of feedback we've had, I think we could always engage with the public more. And so we are constantly looking at those opportunities. And so I welcome input from the commission on items you may have heard, ways we might be missing out, certainly in the parks, trails, and trees world, but anywhere else, obviously, and what we could do better. But that said, I've noticed, you know, in discussions with our park superintendent, you know, I think he enjoys a little bit more of that direct connection that he is getting with park users, where I don't necessarily know that the two park superintendents that have served under me necessarily got that benefit from Parks and Trails just as it was configured. And so I have gotten that feedback directly from the park superintendent.
I've actually got feedback from the public that have interacted with the park superintendent, that they were glad they could take some, because we have like a lot of local experts about very specific things in this town, like building trails, for example. And they've appreciated having direct access to him to be able to share some of their expertise. So I think that's pretty great that you're hearing it, and I know I'm hearing it from the public. I'm interested also, because I think there could be other improvements that we haven't seen. So like, I'm thinking working smarter, not harder. So not necessarily like more and more meetings till everybody's
Right.
exhausted, staff included. But like, this community is really creative. And so like, if the public also has interesting ideas for engagement, that's creative. It seems like Livingston is ripe for different ways to engage with local government. So I hope we can think outside the traditional like boxes of like what we've been doing, and maybe like press the edges of creativity a little bit when it comes to engaging with the public. And then the other thing I was thinking was, if there's other improvements you can think of in terms of like process with boards, or lowering liability and improving like the opportunity for different groups that are working with the city through boards. Because I know like board training has always been a thing, and the more boards we had, the harder it was to keep everybody at the same level of understanding when local laws change or state laws change. So there's other improvements you can think of that we might not be seeing in these spaces or other spaces. I, for one, would welcome the opportunity to keep like improving local government for our residents.
I appreciate that, Vice Chair Nudes, and please know that myself and the entire team, we're always looking for ways that we can do things better. There may be some future board changes, I think, that we could contemplate just in roles and responsibilities there. And as we finalize those, we'll bring those discussions back up to you.
And I say that because it seems like this has been, successful in terms of meeting the needs and the intention of the commission. So I know we're not done yet. We have a lot of like contracts open. But I mean, with the numbers alone, and like the public engagement and public spaces, like farmers markets, and just like trying to meet people where they are differently, it seems like we're getting better engagement than we've ever gotten. At least from my
Seems more
perspective.
productive. I
Yeah.
guess that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, more
And more
productive.
productive.
Yeah, like a better use of
Mhm.
everybody's time.
Staff and grants
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and the
Sure, they're
public.
meeting, but they're getting
And the
stuff done.
public too,
And the
right?
public too, yeah.
Absolutely.
It seems like the public likes those informal opportunities to engage with staff,
I
you know,
agree.
without a projector or whatever, but just like hanging out around a table or,
That's why I like the farmer's market.
yeah, and they don't need to go through us. They just don't need to go through us for everything. They can just
Right.
go talk to the people that work for the city. And so I would welcome if there's other opportunities to make things better in Livingston.
Who's our first superintendent name?
Mike,
Mike Skaggs.
Okay, Mike, yeah. Couldn't remember, thank you.
thank you.
Yeah,
yield.
thank you. And I would agree. It feels like it's more productive. Like the staff is getting more out of it and the public is as well. And so I appreciate that. I'm glad to hear the update, as Commissioner Schwartz said, you know, and at any point we decide something else needs to be done or we need a board for something, we do as the commission have the ability to do that. But Mr. Gager, I'm excited to see what's been going on. It seems like there's a lot happening right now. Excited and things are getting completed. I've heard from the public, there's a lot going on, you know, and so I think that that's exciting. And it's getting people engaged, which is wonderful. So thank you to you and your staff who's been doing a lot of this work. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioners, anything else?
Can't believe nobody made a fruit-based pun about this decision bearing fruit or having fruitful conversations.
You did it.
Leave the fruit of the loom out of it.
There you go. Cornucopia.
Cornucopia.
I would actually add Greg to that list too. I think that new position and a new point of engagement for the public that people have spoken very kindly about. I wish I had a title like policy analyst, Anthony. Yeah, like I don't, there's that, that's been another like plus in this is like using that position
Mhm.
as a way to directly inform policy. So thank you also for receiving the public warmly.
Anything else?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't say that sooner too.
All right. You've got you gave us an update. You feel like you've got what you needed from us?
Absolutely.
Anything else?
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, folks, so we've got one last thing on our agenda, and so I am going to, it's a closed session, so I'm gonna make a motion to go into a closed session pursuant to 2-3-2034A and Mr. Gainer, that is for
Legal strategy.
legal
discussion.
strategy. That's what I thought.
Second,
So. Motion by Kale, second by Newt. So folks,
ready to vote?
if you're on, oh, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Mhm.
Folks, if you're online, we're gonna put you in a waiting room, while we're in closed session. And when we come back, then we'll bring you back out of the waiting room. And we'll close the meeting from there with, city manager and commissioner comments. So Mr. Gager's gonna put folks in the waiting room. And then anyone in this room will need to wait for that, leave, and they can come back when we reopen the session. Thank you.
I turned my recorder on.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, we're coming back into open session. It's 8:50. So let's go ahead and continue down the agenda. City manager comments, Mr. Gager.
Thank you, Chair Kale. I appreciate the commission's hard work tonight, and if I don't see anyone, I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving holiday here coming up in the next few weeks.
Oh, this is our last November meeting.
It
Okay,
is.
yeah.
Not your
Uh,
turn yet.
Commissioner comments, yeah, not your turn yet. Commissioner Willett.
I keep thinking it's like. a bird.
I am continue to be impressed and thankful to be working with my commissioners and city manager to the betterment of our city.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Commissioner Lyons.
Good night.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Good night.
Vice Chair
Yep.
Hughes.
Also, good night.
Good night. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a lovely Thanksgiving, and we will go, may I have a, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A motion by Lyons, so I have a second,
Second.
second by Willich, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. This, meeting of Livingston City Commission is adjourned at 8:51 PM. Good night, all.
I got this second. Motion to